Very good. Okay, Shalom Uvracha. Welcome everybody. Welcome the new people online. We're continuing with Likutey Moharan. We're using this edition. Use any edition you want. Lesson Kaf Dalet 24. We're still in paragraph number 3. We're going to finish up what we did last week. Just before that, we gave a class yesterday, and some people here were on the class. So I'll just give you a nice chidush from the class, okay? Since we're bombers this week and we cannot not speak about Rebbi Shimon. If you look in Likutey Moharan, the very beginning after the Hakdama, there's a prologue. Okay? It doesn't go straight into Torah Aleph. You see the Torah, each lesson has a number, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. In between the introduction and the beginning of the actual lesson, Torah Aleph, there's a little prologue about Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. A little paragraph about Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. Okay? So there's a story brought down that, right after Rebbi Nachman passed away, one of his Hasidim, one of his followers, went to a very far village where he assumed Breslov wasn't heard about yet. They didn't know about Rebbi Nachman yet. And he had nowhere to stay. He stayed by the house of the Rav. So when he was by the house of the Rav, he saw on the table a Likutey Moharan. And he was shocked that already the book reached such a far city, so far away from the Breslov Veld, the Ukrainian Veld, whatever you want to call it. It was somewhere very far. I don't know exactly where it went. And he was shocked that he had the Likutey Moharan. So the Breslover, he told the Rav, "You have the Sefer?" He says, "Yes, of course. You know the Mechaber, you know the Sefer, of course. I was his Talmud." He said, I have a good question to ask you. Why does he start off the Sefer with this little thing about Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai? What does it say here, by the way? If you take a look in this little paragraph, it says there, quoting the Gemara, that Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai had an argument with the Chachamim of Kerem B'Yavne. The Chachamim in Kerem B'Yavne, they said to Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai, the Torah is going to be forgotten. They brought a pasuk to prove that. So Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai stood up and he said, Chas Shalom, the Torah will not be forgotten because the pasuk says, Ki lo tishachach mipi zaro. The Torah will not be forgotten from the mouth of Am Yisrael, Yisrael's offspring. Okay, so Rebbi Nachman points out, he says, look at the Ruach HaKodesh in the Torah. The pasuk says, Lo tishachach mipi zaro. Take the last letters of each word. Ki is Yud, Lo Aleph, tishachach het, mipi Yud zaro, Vav, that's Yochai. The pasuk is hinting, Ki lo tishachach mipi zaro. The zera of me, of the person who's hinted to in the pasuk himself, Yochai, the zera of Yochai is Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. And he says there, this is what Rebbi Nachman says, this is what the Zohar says. Rebbi Shimon says about his book, the Zohar, Al yedei hai chibura da yipekun min galutai. All this he says there. But through this sefer, the Jews will come out of the galut. Okay? This is why, it was a shir last night, a nice good shir. This is why we make a big deal of Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai more than other tzaddik. This obviously is besides Rebbi Nachman and Uman, his promise, his Rosh Hashanah. That's one thing. But with that caliber is Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. Fine. Let's go back to the story. This is what Rebbi Nachman writes here. So the Rav asked this Breslover, why do you think Rebbi Nachman started his sefer with this amazing little insight? It could have been the Torah. You have in the Likutey Moharan small lessons, which are like 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines. Why wasn't this another lesson? Why was it like they put it as a prologue? So the Breslover asked the Rav, I have a feeling you have an answer. What do you have to say? So the Rav said to the Breslover, I have a feeling that Rebbi Nachman is hinting to who he really is. Because the Rokeach writes that every Mechaber of a Sefer, every author of a book, he should write in the introduction his remez of his name. So the Rav said, I noticed that Shimon Yochai is Gematria 501, and Nachman Simcha, the father of Rabbi Nachman was Simcha, Nachman ben Simcha, Shimon ben Yochai 501, the exact same Gematria. In that, he's hinting who he really is. He's hinting to Rabbi Nachman. The Rav said that, he's not even a Breslover. The Rav was telling the follower, I have a feeling, because when you read the Likutey Moharan with an honest perspective, you will see that this can't be written by a normal person. It's impossible. Rav Nosson writes this in the introduction. It's impossible that this sefer was written Mikeres Maleh, like a regular walking rabbi who writes Torah. It can't be. It's impossible. It is so far-reaching, so deep, and so penetrating. It can't be written by a normal tzaddik. It can't be. Impossible. When you learn it honestly from cover to cover, you'll see that this can't be written by a human being. It's impossible. The Sefer. It's from a different plane, a different plan. Not just being deep, but where he takes you, where he takes your imagination, where he takes your feelings, where he takes your emotions, where he's leading you on to connecting 1, 2, 3, and building a whole block here, and you don't know what's happening. I've never seen such a thing. It's like learning Gemara or Zohar even, or Kitvei Ari or something. It's or Midrash or Shulchan Aruch. It's not like a learning which is an intellectual investment and steigen, like they say. Okay, it's not that. He takes you with your emotions and your neshama and your ruach. He takes you to a perception which you've never been exposed to in your life, and you're flipping out. You say, "What is this?" This is what Likutey Moharan does. Okay, so this Rav told the rest of the Rav, feeling he's hinting to it really is. This shows the connection there is deeply between Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rebbi Nachman. He also made a statement like that. Rebbi Shimon said that through this book, the Zohar, the Mashiach will come. And Rebbi Nachman also said that when my Sefer is spread in the world, you can anticipate the coming of Mashiach. Everything's okay there? Okay. So this is just a connection between these two tzaddikim and why we make a big, big deal of Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Lag BaOmer, especially on this holy day. It's not a joke. People do a lot of Mesirat Nefesh to go there. On one hand, you have this thing called Uman Rosh Hashanah, where mainly men go, right? But by Lag BaOmer, it's something people know. The whole family goes. You take everybody, the men, the women. It's like a family event for this tzaddik, okay? People want to say, it's a recent thing. 30 years it's been going on. It's all a waste of money and it's a waste of time. Not true. The Arizal already brings down in his time, which is going before 500 years ago. He says already people were doing this, going to Rebbi Shimon Bar Yochai on Lag BaOmer. One thing we'll finish with this is the Tiferet Shlomo Radomsk. He writes, the Tiferet Shlomo Radomsk writes that traveling to a tzaddik requires Mesirat Nefesh. What does it mean, Mesirat Nefesh? Is it the schlep and the heat and the expenses and the traveling and waiting in line and when people Torah because you're waiting and going that's Mesirat Nefesh, he says. Mesirat Nefesh, I can't say this. The Radomska said this. Mesirat Nefesh means even of safek of an avera. You hear this? This is scary because mitzvah by avera is avera. He says to travel to a tzaddik, which Rabbi Nachman calls in lesson 66, something which one's whole Yiddishkeit is dependent upon. You would think, where's the source for this? It's a whole lesson in Likutey Moharan, lesson 66. Rabbi Nachman says, it's a powerful statement. People hear this say, well, you got to be kidding. But it's written down. You have to learn it. You have to see where it comes from. He says, traveling to a tzaddik is an action, an activity that one's whole Yiddishkeit depends upon. You hear this? You could be davening, learning in a nice kollel, in a community, and put your kids in Talmud Torah and do mitzvah.
Even if it's
we're not now. We're going to leave the statement general. Okay, this is a general statement because Rabbi Nachman himself said it general. When Rav Nosson and Rabbi Nachman talk, they always leave it general, and you have to come up with your own conclusions. Okay, they leave it general. Why general? Because since it's something which is shaykh to all of Yiddishkeit in a general level, so we leave the statement open. Yeah, that's how it is always. So his statement is traveling to a tzaddik. You all of a sudden you jumped into Uman and Meron. Okay, we'll get into that. The first, how it's quoted. One's whole Yiddishkeit is dependent on traveling to a tzaddik. You can have everything in your Yiddishkeit, everything's organized, but if you don't have a tzaddik in your life, you're in for a big dead end. Why is that? So Nosson explains. There's what's called the emes of the Torah, and then what's called the emes of the Torah. The truth and the real truth. What's the truth of the Torah? Parshat Bechukotai, Parshat Kitavo. You do mitzvot, you get rewarded. You do bad, you get punished, you get hit, you get scorched, you get burnt, you get, eating children, all the terrible things in Parshat Bechukotai Kitavo. Okay? You do good, mitzvah. You do bad, avera. Okay. Now you see what the Torah says, and you look at life today, It's like, no way, it's not going to work out. The tests that people are going through today, that people have addictions and people have problems with snus and drugs and alcohol and depression and this and cheating and that, crazy things people are going through, you can't even imagine, right? So here's what the Torah says, and here's what people are doing. So what is it? So according to the Torah, everyone's doomed. Everyone has to be burnt. Everyone has to go to Gehinnom. Go, that's it. We don't need them anyways. Shalom alay nafshi. I have my little shtibel. I have my kehila. I'm protected. I'm okay. The majority of Jews, they can go to Azazel. They can go rot, right? That's according to the Torah, the truth of the Torah. According to the truth of the Torah, 98% of the Jewish people in the world, forget about the Goyim, the Jewish people are doomed. According to the Torah. It's what's called the emes emes. The emet lamito is that if you push strong enough, you can tap in to levels of compassion that were not there. He says, Rav Nosson wrote a prayer on Sfirata Omer. He says in the prayer like this. He says, Ribono Shel Olam, I know that I blemished all of the eitzas and the advice revealed by the tzaddikim, and I blemished the Torah many times. But I believe, Hashem Yitbarach, that you have abundant, endless compassion, which means that there's still advice even to help me after everything I've done in my life, all the blemishes I've gone through and everything. There is advice that has not yet been revealed to the world, and you, Hashem, have revealed them to the tzaddikim, and the tzaddikim have the capacity and ability to reveal these new levels of compassion so that the Jews don't give up and they can wake up to make a crack, to have an opening. A classic example is like what the Zohar says. The Zohar says what? That for the mezid gama brit, for intentional sexual transgressions, there's no tshuva. No tshuva. Okay? A famous statement from the Zohar. That someone who eats his seed in vain, no tshuva. Okay? What did Rabbi Nachman say on that in Sichot Haran? He said, nobody understands the simple meaning of the Zohar except for me. I say, he said, that tshuva helps even where the Zohar says that there's no hope, tshuva can help. Okay? What? That's his job. That's Rabbi Nachman. Okay? I'm not Rabbi Nachman. We trust his explanation. That he says, I say, the Ramak, that God does give an explanation. The Ramak says, don't take literally what the Zohar says, that the tshuva doesn't help. It does help. Even the Ramak says that. But they work hard from Shamayim to test you, to convince you that there's no hope. Your test is not to listen and believe what they say. Even Shamayim. Shamayim is telling the guy there's no hope.
So the Zohar was just...
Ramak is saying that the Zohar, when it says tshuva doesn't help,
that's from
is what they have to say. It's like, for example, people say, just cyanide it. You know, when you buy medication, it says all the side effects, right? So we asked the doctor, what are you giving me this medication, all the side effects? They say, no, they just write that. They just write that, you know. The doctor tells you, they just write that, the side effects and everything, they just write it. But they don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. Or it's right or it's wrong. So there's the emet, which is the main presentation. And there's the emes, which you have to really work hard to get.
There's always writing Tzat Shemayim.
Whatever, figure it out. Yeah.
But I thought I heard once that someone said that this is what the Zohar writes is that of course there is tshuva, right? Because they're mocking that but what the Zohar is referring to is there is something that never goes away. There is a pagam that can never go away.
I don't know. This is it.
The Zohar himself hates the Gemara says. Sorry, the Gemara says that through tshuva from ahava, the sins are transferred into what? Merits. A person's averot are transferred into merits. You hear that? Okay? Yeah. That's the Gemara. Okay. Just you have to work hard to really tap into this. Okay, fine. So Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai, tzaddikim, they're not a joke. And we've seen in the past years, more and more people, even the Litvish, originally, what is this Bittul Torah to go to Kibbutz tzaddikim? Now the big Litvish Rabbanim themselves, they go down by Kibbutz tzaddikim. It's amazing. It's become so understood and so recognized as a necessity, as a part of Yiddishkeit, to go to tzaddikim, whether physical living tzaddikim or graves of tzaddikim, which is another bigger thing, to go to the tzaddikim. So we have this amazing thing of Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai. I won't continue so much, but you should know it's a big thing. It's a big zach. It's a Mesirat Nefesh. A lot of Bittul Torah. He writes in Sefer Hamidot, Rabbi Nachman, under the oath of Sadiq, in the chapter called Sadiq, he says, Lifamim bitula shel Torah, Right? The word in the Chazal is Zeu Kiyuma. He writes Zeu Yesoda, the Yesod of the Bitul Torah, and it's the chapter of the Tzaddik, meaning to travel to Tzaddikim is the Yesod of the Torah. You need a Tzaddik in your life. You need a Tzaddik who will be there to give you hope. Because where the Torah's Rahmanut ends, where the compassion of the Torah ends, that's where the compassion of the Tzaddikim start. Where the Torah says, okay, I can't help you, I'm sorry, you're finished, you're doomed and everything. So the Tzaddikim have a power to nudge, to find an opening that there is still hope. But it's dependent that the person is sincere and honest and he really wants to become a better person. He's saying, I want to, but look, I'm trapped, I'm addicted, I'm this, I'm that. Person, he says, lacks his weaknesses, his deficiencies, he always recognizes it. The fact that a person is open about it and he's honest and he tries to express himself to Hashem for help, this already means the world. This is enough to eventually tip the scale. When, where, how, nobody knows. This is the secret of life. No one knows when the salvation will come, but a person keeps on going, will have an opening. So this again, though, is what we want to stress, the idea of the power of the tzaddik. Fine. We're continuing now.
That's what means of not to settle big bad man.
Could be, yeah. By him, that's for sure. When he made a promise that anybody that comes to his grave, gives the coin to charity, says the 10 chapters called the Tikkun HaKali, and regrets what they did, and takes upon themselves not to go back to their stupidity, he promised that he will pull these people out. And he uses express by their payas. By their payas. What does it mean by their payas? Do you need payas for that? What if you don't have payas? It won't pull you out? What about women who don't have, so may not have payas, whatever? So payas means that even those people who seem to be from, okay, who show the world that they're from, and you would never think that these people, they do this and this and that, and they do. And their busha is much more greater. Before Hashem, before the tzaddikim, they feel even worse about themselves. They're eating themselves inside out more than other people because of the contradiction between who they would represent. What? So the whole share we gave, the conclusion is that even Mesit. Rebbi Kaplan is the only one who wrote it Meforash. Rebbi Kaplan in of all places, the Mam Loez, his translation of Mam Loez, Torah Anthology, Parashat Vayeshev, where it talks there about the sin of Yehuda and Tamar. Where the author of the Mam Loez goes into the whole tikkun and tshuva process for Pekah Mabrit, and he doesn't give a strong solution. He says the best you can do is to fast for the rest of your life every Sunday and Thursday. Okay, Monday and Thursday. And on that, Rebbi Kaplan couldn't hold back. He couldn't hold back. He wrote a footnote. I think we went into this. I told the story once. He wrote a footnote saying, today we have the 10 chapters revealed by the Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, called the Tikkun HaKali, which helps even for Mezid, even for intentional sins, okay? And we said, by the way, back then there was typesetting. Not like today, everything's on the computer. Typesetter for my Muslim publications for the Torah Anthology was a Skver Hasid. He refused to put this in. So Rebbi Kaplan says, you have to put this in or I'm quitting. So the owner of Muslim told the Skver Hasid, you want your job? You have to put it in. If you don't put it in, you're fired. We need Rebbi Kaplan to finish Torah Anthology. Yeah. Okay? All right. So that's the classic example of going to Rabbi Nachman's kever. We can pull out a person, no matter what they did. No matter what they did. Okay? By other people, they say that person, he's a Rasha Marusha, he's this, he's never going to get up at Tchet HaMeitim, and this and that. But if a person like that wants to do tshuva, there's hope. Okay? When the Gemara says in Perek Chelik, Sanhedrin, that these are the following people who have no portion in the world to come, it's because they passed away with their negative attitude. If they would have really woken up, yeah, you're saying no. If they would have really woken up, there would have been help for them even. Okay, you hear that? The thing is that people, a person is left with his gaiva.
They died before they even died.
Yeah, they died before they even died. Okay, we're going to continue finally. Let's go back into this. And let's hope we see some connection between what we're learning now to what we spoke about before. Let's see. So I'm going to go over just a quick chazara from where we did last week. Okay, and we'll continue to advance to the next paragraph, Bezat Hashem. Okay. In the Likutey Tfilot, this paragraph and the following Siv Dalit are connected. So we won't yet do the prayer part. Wait till we finish this whole section, and then we'll go into the prayer part, Bezat Hashem. Which is like this. V'zeh bechinat, we did this a few times already, okay? V'zeh bechinat Torat Elokav belibo lo timad ashurav. This is the whole idea of the verse from Psalms chapter 37, where King David says, or they say about, Hashem is saying about David HaMelech, Torat Elokav belibo, the Torah of his Lord, his God, is in his heart, which lo timad ashurav, as a result, his legs won't stumble, right? When the proof he's trying to prove from this is that once you elevate the mitzvah, doing the mitzvah b'simcha, you elevate the mitzvah to the level of the heart, lev. Because belibo always means simcha, because the verse reads, natata simcha belibi. We went into this a few times already. El libo is sadness. It says in Parshat, the end of Parshat Bereshit, that for the generation, the punishment for the Dor Mabul, the generation of the flood, that Vaitatzev Elibo, that the sadness became inflicted towards Hashem's heart. Elibo, to his heart. Belibo is simcha. Okay? So when Torah Elokav Belibo, when I'm zocher to do the mitzvot with such joy, the mitzvot are learned from the Torah. Torah Elokav means I fulfill the mitzvot even under difficulty, under tests of sadness, which is Elokim, Midat Hadin, the attitude of judgment. Yet, nonetheless, I'm doing the mitzvah with joy. Proof is it's belibo, it's in my heart. I've elevated the mitzvah up to the level, right, of the heart. It says there by Yaakov Vini, remember, Vayisa, Libo et Raglav. You remember it says, how does the pasuk say? When Yaakov had the dream of the Sulam, remember? So he had the dream of the Sulam. Hashem promised him, I'm going to be with you. Don't worry. And then when he woke up, wow, what a dream! Zeshar Shamayim. And then he made a neder. If Hashem, you keep your word, I promise when they come back to offer a korban here. And then it says, what's the pasuk? Vayisa libo et raglav. Vayisa et raglav. Rashi says, libo nisa et raglav. Remember, his heart let his feet carried his feet. Let's see the pasuk. Parshat Vayitze. Okay.
It's in the beginning.
Yeah. Parshat Vayitze. Okay. Parshat Vayitze, the beginning of Parshat Vayitze, the dream of the ladder. Okay. Okay, neder. It says it's neder, and it is sheni. Vayisa Yaakov raglav. That's the pasuk. Okay. Vayisa Yaakov raglav vayelech artza b'nei kedem. The translation, art scroll. So Jacob lifted his feet. Jacob lifted his feet. Let's see if there's a Rashi. Let's bring another Rashi. Rashi says, what does it mean Jacob lifted his feet? What a funny word, lifted his feet. So he said, Libo nisa et raglav. Jacob's heart, because he was so happy from the good news, Rashi says that also. He was happy from the good news that Hashem's going to protect him, that his heart, the simcha in the heart, lifted up the legs. It fits in perfectly with our lesson, by the way. When there's simcha in the heart, it lifts up the legs. The legs now are elevated because we want to get now to the next level of elevating the legs. That's what he said. Torah Elokav belibo, because the Torah, the mitzvot I'm doing are in the heart, which means I'm doing the besimcha. As a result, my legs now, lotim ad ashurav, my legs won't stumble from what? He's saying, shehi olechet naored, that now the mitzvah, which is now reflected in the legs, it goes now to wake up the whole world. Shehi olechet leorer. That's what he said earlier. That a mitzvah has in its power to wake up the world. What he's saying here is something amazing. What he's saying is you want to help wake up the world to come back to Hashem? Do mitzvot. Do mitzvot b'simcha. For this, we have to give a nice credit to the Lubavitcher Rebbe Alav Shalom. That his whole thing was to get people to do mitzvot. You remember? He gave out dollar Sundays. He gave out dollars that they should do the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. He told them, check your mitzvot, give tzedakah, have a pushka and everything. Kol hakavod, mitzvah tanks. You remember the mitzvah tanks? Okay? To do mitzvot, but now the point by Rabbi Nachman is b'simcha. Doing mitzvot is one thing, but doing mitzvot b'simcha is what gets the world to wake up. You want to change the world? This is what Rabbi Nachman's saying here, basically. You really want to get people to do tshuva. You want to get those atheists and those anti-religious guys in downtown Tel Aviv and whatever. You want them to wake up? You want them to come back? Whether you're the Erev Rav or not, I don't know. It's not my name. But now, you want to get people to wake up? Do mitzvot b'simcha. Somebody bothers you. I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe they're making it hard for the religious people and this and that, making it hard to get to Meron. Okay? You know, how to get things working to be happy in the midst of the simple. Just want you to know, last week they posted, the people in Masharim, that we see clearly that what's happening with Meron. I know it's not a politics class, but there's the point which comes out connected to our shir. The police are doing things and people are not happy with what the police are doing. You can't get to Uman, you have to buy a ticket. Tickets are sold out. If you're not in a certain hour, then you get a fine, they won't let you in. And they're destroying the base midrash and made things so upside down in Meron, okay? So the people in Masharim, they wrote like this. So what are we gonna do? Everybody bring your musical instruments, bring your shtreimel, if you have your halakha kids that you're bringing to cut their hair in Meron, bring everything. And wherever the police stop you, take out the musical instruments, take out everything, take out the cakes and the l'chaim, and there be b'simcha. So this is how we subdue the evil, is by being b'simcha, to show that we're not broken, to show Hashem that we're not broken, to show Rebbi Shimon by Yochai that we're not broken. This is what he's saying here also. That when you do mitzvah, it's a mitzvah, obviously. You're celebrating in honor of the halakha, to cut the hair. It's a chinuch, which is part of the mitzvah, chinuch, okay? So when you're doing a mitzvah or anything that's connected to a mitzvah, b'simcha, this is the greatest way to subdue your enemies. Enemies, the evil, they want to see you sad. Because atzvut is the sign, the signia of the klipot. What's the signia of the klipot? Atzvut. Atzvut is the representation of the evil. The evil wants everyone to be sad. Tisha B'Av, all year round. That's the evil, okay? If now you're able to be b'simcha, even in the face of evil, you won, right? 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 So we say in the Haggadah, make his teeth grind. How do you make the enemy's teeth grind? By being b'simcha. If you nizoche to do mitzvah b'simcha, that's how you subdue the evil. Okay? Remember the story we told about the Baal Shem Tov that the rest of and every the Hasidim told on the last day of Pesach. We didn't see each other for a long time. Chaval. The story of the Baal Shem Tov's trip to Eretz Yisrael. By all Hasidic circles, they tell over the story on the last Seudah of Pesach. Right? It's called Seudat Baal Shem Tov. Chabad has their version. Breslov has their version. Boyan has their version. Right? Ruzhin has their version. Everyone has a different version of the story. We're not going into that. But one point in the story, which I think is common by everyone, is the incident of the Baal Shem Tov in Istanbul, where he promised this couple who couldn't have kids. He said to them, I know why you came all the way to Istanbul to meet me. And Hashem now granted your request, granted your will. You will be blessed with a boy this year. And as soon as he said that, his face turned like pale white and his eyes popped out. And Odil, the daughter of the Baal Shem Tov, she said, I saw my father do many aliyat neshama. Like this I never saw. It was scary. And it was like that, sitting at the Leil Seder table with these guests, these rich guests from Germany, this couple from Germany that came from Berlin, and all their waiters and everything, and their entourage that came with them. And the Baal Shem Tov's student, Rav Hirsch Sofer, and his daughter, Odil, okay? And they're all looking at the Baal Shem Tov's face, and they're scared to move because his eyes were like popping out almost, and he was white. And then he snapped out, and he said, okay, I'm going to serve Hashem without Olam Haba. They didn't understand what he was talking about. He said like this, when he came out of the trance, out of the Aliyat HaNeshama, he said to the people at the table like this. He says, as soon as I promised you, you're both sterile from birth. You can't have kids. You, the man, the husband, and the wife, you guys are both sterile from birth. When I decreed you're going to have children, I blessed you, and Sadiq goes there, okay? They're aroused against me a major prosecution in the Beit Din Shema, in the heavenly court. Who is the Baal Shem Tov to go against nature? This man can't have kids. This woman can't have kids. Who is he to change the ways of nature? It's involving the Gilgulim and everything. Hashem have to change everything now. Who is he? So they said, you're right. So the punishment executed towards the Baal Shem Tov was he has to lose his portion of the world to come. So when the Baal Shem Tov heard this, at first he was broken. Then he got out because he remembered that if you're sad, this can't be from the Kedusha. It has to be from the evil side, which was it was the Yetzer Hara who was the prosecution. So he said, okay, very well, I'm going to serve Hashem now with no olam haba, and he started to be happy. So the story, so he went on to say, the prosecution was so upside down, upset, but I'm happy. They said, okay, give him back his olam haba. He shouldn't be so happy, just give it back to him, okay? So the point is like this. You want to subdue your enemies, you do the mitzvah b'simcha. You show that you're b'simcha. It's not easy. Again, it's not easy. We're talking. It's a class, it's everything, fine and dined, and then we go to our lives again, and we go back into our atzlut and our marashchora and whatever we go through chas v'shalom, okay? But this is the kivun. This is another reason why we need tzaddikim. Tzaddikim is someone, a tzaddik, Rav Nosson says, is someone who's always there to give you that push. When you're broken, when you're tzabrochen, you need help. En chavush matir tatzmo, someone in jail can't free himself. You need a tzaddik. So this is why you need a tzaddik. And the whole thing of Rebbi Shimon, it says, Chadi Rebbi Shimon. Rebbi Shimon was happy. Chadi means the joy. The idea of Rebbi Shimon, by Yochai, why he's so necessary in your life, is because he gives you that simcha that you need, even in the worst situations. You're in a bad situation. Most people in the world, when they're in a bad situation, they do the wrong things. They make it worse. If, however, even someone in a bad situation, okay, has a tzaddik in his life, even if he does make a bad decision, because he has a tzaddik in his life, there's always an opening to get out. The tzaddik sends a person hope that no matter what he goes through, he's going to continue. That's the sign that a person is truly connected to a tzaddik, if he dropped it all or not. You have people, we went through this a lot. Rabbi Nachman in lesson 31, he says there's 4 types of people who come to a tzaddik. They correspond to the arba shenichnesu lepardes. The 4 in the Gemara Chagiga. There were 4 rabbis, Tanaim, who went into Gan Eden, Pardes. Rabbi Akiva, Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher. Up to 4, 3 were tzaddikim. 1, the Mafreya, was a Rasha. Okay? The 3 that were tzaddikim was Rabbi Akiva. Shenichnas b'shalom, yatzad b'shalom. He entered and left normal, safe. Ben Azai, Hitzitz v'nivra, he went crazy. Ben Zuma, Hitzitz v'amed, he died. They're all tzaddikim. Acher, Elisha ben Avuya was the problem, that he became a kofar. Okay? So when Nachman brings this down, say the same is true of people come close to tzaddik. You have 4 categories of people come to tzaddik. Okay? It's not justified to say, all breastfeeders are cuckoo. All breastfeeders are sugar. The people in the world, they think the breastfeeders are not normal. That's maybe one group. One group of people. But they don't represent me. I'm sorry. You're not my Nazi. You're not my representative. I'm sorry. Okay? You have people, because that's most people, they're scared when you tell them I'm getting to breastfeed. Oh no, he's going to go crazy. He's going to lose a shalom bayit. This is going to go down. And they start making the whole story that everything's doomed. They're crazy people. They're in the mental hospitals. And then there's some truth to what they say. And that, Rabbi Nachman says, it's a test. Who you really are will come out when you come close to a tzaddik. He says in Sichot Haran, I know I'm going off a lot, but it's very important to talk about this. In Sichot Haran, Rabbi Nachman says, coming close to a tzaddik is like someone who boils water, which is like contaminated water, acid rain, dirty water, but it looks clear. It looks clean. You take a cup of water from the, it's raining and next to the sewer, you take some water, okay, it looks pretty clean. When you boil the water, all the garbage, all the sediments come up to the top. So the same thing, a person who comes to a tzaddik, before he comes to the tzaddik, he looks like pretty normal, it looks okay. And then when he comes close to the tzaddik, all this garbage starts coming out. All the sediments start coming out. So you may think, it's worse now, what do I need this? No, now you're getting your purification process. Now we're cleansing you. For Shemayim, you're getting cleansed now, but all of the garbage is coming out. So also, the person is not sincere if he has what's called, like it says about Acher. What was his problem? Tina, yesh belibe. He had ulterior motives, Tina. He had ulterior motives in his heart. It wasn't 100% Hashem Shemayim. He was into chokhmah, into philosophy and everything, okay? So he had ulterior motives. And it came out when Rabbi Nachman says, it comes out of a person when he comes close to a tzaddik. If now he's really a bad person, has ulterior motives, that will come out also. You get to see the real face of a person. And if he's a Rabbi Akiva Nik, he could be a Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, which also tzaddikim. They can handle the intensity of the light. One went cuckoo and one died. In other words, you have people, it's too intense. They're good people, they're honest, but they can't handle too much light. They don't know how to put on the brakes. They have to put on the brakes. It doesn't make them Rashayim though. It doesn't make them evil people. It means that they didn't know how to take, we're going to go into the idea of matei v'la matei. They know how to take the light properly with the right constriction, the right bounce back to accept the bounce properly, etc. Okay? But the point is, you have people, yes, they come to a tzaddik and the bad comes out. All the bad comes out. Okay? A lot, okay? But when you need a tzaddik though, because he's there to help you. He's there really to bring out who you really are. You're good, you're good also. And it's a purification process. I went off, and when I go off, I always forget the train of connections. If you can remind me how we got into this. If not, we'll continue the presentation. Okay. So going back to here, this is what he's saying here, that the mitzvah goes to wake up the whole people. Okay? When you do mitzvah b'simcha, that's the way to get the world back to serve Hashem. This was funny. One thing was funny to say this. There's a guy in Israel, he became very popular. Okay, he's like, they call these people RC. RC are people, they don't wear kippahs, but they keep Shabbat, they go to Uman Rosh Hashanah, they go to Sadiq, they go to Meron Lag Ba'omer, they love Tzadikim, they put on tefillin, but they're like this. They don't put on kippahs and stuff like that. They call him RC. So the guy, he purposely gets tickets. And then he puts online, he puts on viral, how he's so happy. Yes, Baruch Hashem, I got another ticket. And he's dancing and showing the whole world. He became so popular. He's on the news now. They invited him, and he's getting fame now. He's getting money now. He's getting good. So they had bad. He said he got a ticket, and he felt the best way to deal with it is to be happy. But it's not enough that I should be happy on my own. I want the world to see that I'm happy. So he started recording every time he got a ticket. So, and you see the police officer, trying to make him feel upset, atzbani, they say, to get him angry and everything, say, Baruch Hashem, and he's saying, Tov lehodot Hashem, he starts singing. He starts showing not only that I'm not sad, I'm not upset, I'm happy. Okay, that's how he got them, that's how he nailed them, that's how he screwed them.
That's
okay?
how they get so mad.
Yeah, because that's what he's saying. You want to bring down your enemies, you show that you're happy. You show that you're besimcha, that's what he's saying here. This is what wakes up the whole world. Go on. What we said last week, Halichot Eli Malki Bakodesh, right? Halichot Eli Malki Bakodesh. The whole verse, remember we read last week, it's Psalms chapter 68. Ra'u Halichotecha Elokim. They saw Hashem, you're walking in the sea, like Rashi explains there. Halichot Eli, and the walking of my God, the going of my God. Malki Bakodesh, Malki Bakodesh. It's funny because in the translation, the comma is somewhere else. Halichot Eli Malki, comma, Bakodesh. Rabbi Nachman's reading it like this. Look how he reads it. When you elevate the Malchut to the Kedusha. So Rabbi Nachman's reading it like this. Halichot Keli, comma, Malki Bakodesh. When Malki Bakodesh, when I elevate Hashem's Malchut into holiness, how do I do that? When I do the mitzvot with joy, mitzvot are associated with Hashem's Malchut. Mitzvot, Shechina, Malchut are all synonyms. They're all connected. Remember that. Malchut, the lowest sphere of Hashem, and the Shechina is Hashem's Malchut. Hashem's kingdom is His divine presence. And the mitzvot, like we said, are the representation of the Shechina. How do you show Hashem's presence in this world? By doing mitzvot. This world has no at all indication of Hashem. On a revealed level, you have to have eyes of emunah to see Hashem, yes. But the way this world runs, people getting up, going downtown to Macy's and downtown Manhattan and having a job and this, and how the world runs, people get up in the morning, go to work, come at night, eat supper, go to sleep the next day and party a little and whatever. The way this world works, you don't see Hashem. You don't see Hashem. What shows physically Hashem? The mitzvot. The mitzvot, we take physical matter. You take tefillin, you take leather to make parshiot tefillin. You take wool to make it tzitzit, okay? And the brachot you say, the energy you eat, and then you say brachot. Sfirta Omer is a mitzvah by just speech, okay? All the brachot you do eating and you say a bracha on it, okay? Everything is a mitzvah, is revealing Hashem's divine presence and malchut in the world. So Malki Bakodesh, back to the verse. He reads it like this. Halichot Keli is through Malki Bakodesh. Kishamali Malchut Etoch HaKedusha, he malbeshet et Halichot Eli. et netzach hod yesod. So he's saying halichot keli, the walking of my Lord. Halichot is plural, so it means 2 legs. You walk with 2 legs. So halichot, it's plural. It's the right leg and the left leg, which correspond to netzach and hod in the Kabbalah. Keli is another term we saw last week, referring to yesod. Yochai is a synonym for the sphera of yesod. Okay, remember that? So halichot keli is 3. Halichot is 2, Eli is 1, so that's 3. It's true. Malki b'kodesh k'shema'alim malchut detoch ha'kedusha. When you elevate Malki b'kodesh, so the reading is halichot keli, comma. The pshad is though halichot keli malki, comma b'kodesh is in the b'kodesh. And Rabbi Nachman's taking the verse and playing games with it. Okay. K'shema'alim malchut detoch ha'kedusha, he malbeshet et halichot Eli et netzach hod yesod. So he's saying, what is he trying to say here? The mitzvah that you did with joy, even though you're in the shmutz, you're going through Elokim, Torah Elokav, the first verse. You're going through dinim, you're going through difficulties, and yet you're out of it, and this is driving you nuts, and this phone call is driving you nuts, and how am I going to daven in the morning now when I woke up late and my head is turning, and this, they're driving me crazy already from this and that. Yet you're able to still do the mitzvah of b'simcha, okay? So with that, you elevate the mitzvah to the level of the legs. What does that mean? That now my mitzvah has movement. What does that mean? It means that my mitzvah now can move everybody. It's like molecules. You ever learn in science molecules? How does heat work? How does something heat up? It's like you heat up this one molecule and it heats up the other ones because it's moving. So it starts bumping into the next molecule, and they start, all of a sudden everything heats up. So one is moving, boom, 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 and it starts moving everyone. They all start moving because of it. So your mitzvah, you do is energy. When you do a mitzvah, it's spiritual energy, mamash, spiritual energy. And it doesn't stay by itself. Because it's energy, spiritual energy, it gets everybody to move. Movement to what? Not physical movement. Movement back to Hashem. Because the world in itself is cold. Cold. Everyone's cold. People are cold, sad. This world in itself, people are just, you see people cracking up? No, people are not smiling at the street. Someone sent me a nice video yesterday. They did an experiment. There's a guy on a subway, I think in England, whatever, in Britain. And it's like set up. There's people with hidden cameras and they want to observe people. So the guy, he has his headphones in and he's on his tablet. And in front of everybody, everyone's, how the trains are in England. Everybody's Tisha B'Av, everyone's for sure sad, okay? So he starts cracking up, but and all of a sudden, the people with the hidden cameras, they want to see people's observations. All of a sudden, the whole train starts cracking up because this one guy is cracking up and cracking up and cracking up. They think they could hold themselves. Even the most serious, British guy, the hound dog, the dogs are very sad. The guy's looking like that and he starts cracking up. And they did this experiment to see one guy cracking up. They have no idea why he's laughing. They know he's looking at something funny, but he starts cracking up and cracking up and cracking up until 90% of the train starts cracking up. And then after they did the experiment, they gave everybody they showed this was a planned thing, and they give a gift Coca-Cola can, whatever. You see them give a can. They couldn't believe what they did. It was a good experiment. It shows one person is happy, it gets everybody happy. So the same thing,
I saw something like that. It said, you smile at the world won't smile back at you.
Mamash. That's be a real smile,
Yeah.
right? I like the gentleman president smile, the fake smile.
Get out of here.
I want to kill you. I want your money. Right, okay. So this is what he's saying here. The mitzvah has legs. Legs moving by Yisai Yaakov and Raglav, what we just saw. Right? Legs, movement of legs, what Rashi says, is the simcha gets the legs to move. When you do movement, it's because you want the movement. When a person wakes up to shul and he gets him and he walks, it says in halakha, you should run to shul in the morning. Why? Because you want to show that simcha. The simcha is expressed in getting up early. People are not happy, they don't want to get up in the morning. Oh, I'll sleep another hour, I'll sleep another 2. People are not the simcha. It's reflected in their heaviness in doing the mitzvah. Oh, here we go, after the Marv, right? After the Marv, person upset. Oh, mincha, shoot, after the mincha now, this and that. The davening is the best expression of heaviness and doing mitzvah with simcha. It's the davening. For some reason, davening is the hardest thing to do with simcha. for some reason. Yeah. And yet, it's the most powerful connection to Simcha is Davka the davening. What is davening?
Because it's repetitive.
Yeah, but it's Shevach. It's praising Hashem with this new day. The problem is the person's unhappy with himself, so how in the world you expect him to daven with Simcha? That's why it's a big avoda. It's a big avoda to be the Simcha. Then it brushes off. But to be happy, we need a tzaddik. Like we said at the beginning of this pasuk, Ra'u halichotecha Elokim. Remember? We need to see the halicha of Hashem. We have to see the Hashem making where there was water to make a path. You need eyes to see that. And every Jew has countless miracles that only he sees. When you recognize Hashem's hand in everything, and you're happy about it, and you don't say, okay, it was a miracle, and you just continue with life. No, you focus on it. So this allows you to, what's it called, to internalize the simcha. You internalize the situation, it brings you the simcha, now that you have a happy attitude. It's amazing. You know, when Hashem does you a favor, focus on it. Don't say, okay, yeah, thank you, Hashem, thank you, let's go on right there now. We have to go on after my coffee. Recognize it. That's the davening. That's why davening is hard. Because most of davening is shevach, is giving praise to Hashem. 98% of davening is what? It's giving thanks. You have to Bakashot and the Shmoneh Esrei, fine. But the brachot and before the brachot and before Kriyat Shema, after Kriyat Shema, it's all praising Hashem. Okay? Shachrit, 90%. Come on, 95% is praising Hashem. So the Zimra all do. Okay, it's all praising Hashem. Even in the korbanot, the request and bakashot between the Torah, the korbanot, and everything you have there. Yiratzon, nachon. So let's go on. Halichot Eli Malki Bakodesh Keshemalim Malchut Betoch HaKdusha Imalbeshet Et Halichot Eli Et Netzach Od Yesod Leelech Uleorer Kol Advarim Lavodat Hashem Yitbarach. To go and arouse, you see, all of the things we mentioned this last week. He started the paragraph of he started paragraph 3. Yesh koch b'mitzvah leelech uleorer kol ha'olamot, all the worlds. What does it say here? Leorer kol ha'dvarim. He changed the wording. He started off, and again, this lesson is Lashon Rabbeinu, which means every word is precise. Every word is measured here. So he started off that when a person does a mitzvah of joy, it has the power to arouse all the worlds, all the olamot. And now he says that at the end, mitzvah now has the power to arouse all the things. Well, why did he change? Why did Rabbi Nachman start off with olamot and then he went to dvarim? So they have an answer here. He says something nice in the notes here. Chaim Kramer brings down from Mabu Anachal. Where is it? There's a commentary called Mabu Anachal. You don't have it. It was a monthly newsletter that came out between 1980, 1981, 1980 for 3-4 years. And every booklet, every month was a different lesson in Likutey Moharan. And asked everyone to bring in their insights, and chidushim. So that it was going on for like 3-4 years. It was very popular, and then it stopped. Boom. So they have on this lesson 24 insights. It's called Mabu Anachal. He says like this. He says,
yeah, because Pshat is like I'll tell you Pshat.
Yeah.
That once it's in the Olamos, then it comes out the Maisa and the Dvarim that we have in this.
So first stage is Olamot, and then continue in Dvarim. That's what he says. You see, he's quoting here Magoy Nachal.
But it goes backwards and forwards.
Okay, listen what he says here. Rabbi Nachman began this section with arouse all the worlds, Olamot, to the service of God. Here, the Rebbe states, arouse all things to the service of God. Why did he change from worlds to things? That is, not only does a mitzvah performed in joy have the power to arouse the higher worlds, when you say worlds, that's already dimensions. Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, that's the worlds in general, okay? But even the lowly creations of this world, the things, also become aroused to serve God. That's what you said, that when waking up, you want to wake up first big time. And when you wake up big time, then it goes on to tiny details. Meaning what? When you do a mitzvah, what pushes you to do the mitzvah? My tiny mitzvah is shaking the entire world. In other words, when you look big, it gives you a push. For example, when someone wants you to buy a product, or someone wants to convince you about doing a decision in like a CEO on a major thing, they say, do you realize what's going to happen? If we do this, millions of people are going to buy our product, and this, they always speak in big terms. And you get motivated. Also, when you go to like a weight loss class, millions of people have done this. Millions of people have changed their lives. You always You start off big and you say, wow, this, I'm in. Why? Because they convince you on the bigger scale and then it gets you to the tiny details. This is true for the klipa, for the sheker, the falsehood, and it's also true for the kedusha. That to get you motivated, you need to do something big. Shmuel Shapira, he told his son-in-law, he's a son-in-law, Shmuel Shapira, he passed away. He has a son-in-law, Lefkovich. He lives, I think, in Maro. Okay, he's blind. He lost his sight. He was a square chassid, he became a Brestover. He heard from his father-in-law like this. When he first met his father-in-law, it was on a trip. They went together, Erev Rosh Chodesh, Shvat to Meron, in 1970. 1970, we had a private Arab taxi. It was a Mercedes 3 or 4 or 4 was. I remember these taxis when I first came here. They were like orange, and they had like a limousine. It was a Mercedes Benz, and it had like 3 or 4 rows. Okay, it's like a longer car. I remember them 25 years ago. Okay, so they had this taxi, took him to Meron. And he was just observing in awe of Shmuel Shapira, like he was someone who was totally connected to Hashem, just looking at him. So he said, as soon as they got to Meron, Shmuel Shapira he went up to be chazan without asking anybody. He went up to be chazan. He later told him like this. He says, whenever you feel not motivated to daven, it's best to be chazan. Why? It's what's called emat hatzibur. When you're doing something and it's collective, it gives you more brent, more fire to do it. This is how it is also for every tiny mitzvah you do. When you do a tiny mitzvah, and you know it has major repercussions on the whole world, you're more motivated to do it. Remember this story we went through? We told this story. There was a guy in Siberia, a Jew. They put him in a room, and on the wall was a grinder. You know, like the matzahs, the grinder. And he told him, he asked him what's on the other side of the wall. He says, you're grinding wheat for all of Russia. For 20 years, he was grinding, knowing that he's making flour, grinding wheat, flour, okay, for 20 years. So what kept him going? I'm doing something which is useful for the world at large. At the end, he asked when he got out, can I see what's under the side of the wall? They showed him there was nothing there. And he broke him, he almost died. When he was grinding for nothing for 20 years, it almost killed him. What kept him going for 20 years? What keeps a Jew going is, and here's the truth though, it's not like a made up thing. It's when you do a tiny mitzvah, when you do a bracha, you know, if they were to tell you now, do you know your bracha now has the chance to skip the scale of the entire world to bring them back to Hashem? When they show a person that, they infuse them, will the person say the bracha, no, going in the morning, they won't say anything like that. They say it very carefully. It's like you're going up in front of 5,000 people and all listening to your bracha on the microphone. Baruch atah. You're not going to say right? The guy who now is saying a bracha in front of everybody in the reform shows. Baruch atah, right? He's the microphone, and he has 5,000 people in front of him. He's not going to say the bracha fast. He's going to say the bracha slowly, right? That's how it is. When you do something and you know it's collective, it's easier to do it. There's more geshmak. So here it is also. The way to get a person to do mitzvah b'simcha, it's to convince him that the mitzvah has general ramifications. It's kali. That's what he said in the beginning, that you have the power of your mitzvah to get the worlds moving. And now he says all the nitty gritty. How are we doing with time? Is it Hashem? Okay. I want to continue a little bit more, but Hashem, we advanced. We'll stop here. Okay.
The klipa works the same way too. First, he said you are good for nothing. So why are you going to that chat? First, the big picture. You're nothing. You do the various, and then you want to still go to you're not. You're
nothing for kedusha, but you're something for the world. Go drop everything and become a movie star. Go drop everything and go to work. You become somebody, and that's why people turn to their addictions and stuff. Here, I feel something. It's hard for me to get to the Torah. It's hard. I feel it here. What's needed is to infuse people with simcha. But for that, you need a tzaddik. That's why we should be zocher to be close to Rebbi Shimon bar Yochai, Rabbi Nachman ben Fegia, all the tzaddikim, right?
Who's a tzaddik?
Who's a tzaddik? Manden atar brit. The Zohar asks, who is a tzaddik? Someone who passed the brit. Tzaddik is someone who's mastered his sexual purity. He's already passed the test. He's already there, and because of that,
how could you know such a thing?
That's what I have to know. Rabbi Nachman says the way to find one of the indications of a true tzaddik is you look at the students. The Talmidim are good people, then you know that the tzaddik that we're sitting from is someone honest. It's like a stamp, a rubber stamp. On the rubber stamp, all the letters are backwards.
I can ask you again, how do I see it on the guys that they're good? What's the litmus test for that?
So there's what's considered as basic, normal human beings understanding of a good person, a good Samaritan. That's what they call it, a good Samaritan. When you see people are good and honest and upright, and they're all connected to one Sadiq, you can assume that that's.
And the Rebbe that you connected to has to be someone who's alive or not?
That's another class, and we went into this many times before you came. Because Hashem, we continue.
What's the simple test? What's the simple test?